Hi, everyone. Welcome to our very first BBH New York Barn Burner series, The Power of Support, Closing the Black Generational Wealth Gap. My name is Amani Duncan, and I'm the president of BBH New York and your moderator for this conversation. So BBH New York Barn Burner is a series of virtual gatherings for now, hopefully we'll move to in person, in which we scan the landscape for fellow creatives and cultural disruptors, sparking rich and provocative discussions across multiple disciplines. As some of you may remember, last November, BBH teamed up with Google and the US Black Commerce on a campaign to recast Black Friday to spotlight Black-owned businesses anchored by exclusive jingles composed by the legendary Wyclef Jean and R&B singer Ari Lennox. We all thought at that time, what better way to help Black-owned businesses by redirecting spending power on the nation's biggest shopping day towards Black-owned businesses who were disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. And we are proud to say that we are continuing to partner with brands to support awareness and bring attention to Black-owned businesses. So during today's discussion, we will discuss how brands, agencies, and individual support of Black-owned businesses can help create a better future for Black communities. Also, as we go into this topic today, we ask that you keep the idea of support at the forefront of your minds, because support is an action, it's a verb. It's doing, it's the actual doing that matters. It's helping to solve unmet needs, and it's showing up when people need you and actually staying until the job is done. And there are many ways that you can lean in and support, which we'll talk more in this conversation. But before we get started, it is my honor to introduce today's participants who will share their expertise and insight into this important cultural and economic topic. He's a lyricist, singer, musician, producer, poet, songwriter, my friend, Wyclef. Wyclef is also, not only a solo superstar, but he is also the founding and guiding member of the Fugees. He's been a consistently powerful pop culture force for over 2 decades. In 1996, the Fugees released their monumental album, The Score. To this day, still my all-time favorite album. And then since then, Wyclef has released 8 albums as a solo artist that have nearly sold over 9 million copies worldwide. He continues to collaborate with today's biggest artists, Fall Out Boy, which he performed the song Dear Future on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And then in September of 2019, Netflix announced the production of an untitled animated project based on the real life story of Wyclef's childhood in Haiti. His most recent projects include Run That Back, a one-of-a-kind show for music lovers of any type, where Wyclef interviews heavy hitters from all walks of life, from music to sports to politics and beyond. So please join me in welcoming to the Barn Burner panel, my friend, our friend, Wyclef Jean. Hi, Clef.
How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. Love that you're in front of the keys. Can't wait to get into the conversation.
I am here for the tutorial. Shout out to everybody in the building. It's Friday. Let's go.
Let's go. Madeline Nelson. Oh, I could just go on and on and on about my dear friend Madeline and the force that she is. She is the CEO and founder of Heads Music, which is a boutique record label and creative music company right here in New York City that's dedicated to true artist development. The label is the first of its kind and is led and staffed entirely by women. Yes, a reflection of Nelson's dedication to making sure that women have a voice within the music industry. Her dedication to work and fighting for her beliefs have been forged through her illustrious career in and outside of the music industry. Madeline was also very instrumental in shaping of entertainment and music culture behind the scenes in her roles as a producer, executive, artist manager, and trusted advisor for over 3 decades. Her repertoire ranges from her work as a manager of R&B supergroup Blackstreet in the early 90s to her work with none other than Michael Jackson, to major label corporate executives as, SVP of A&R at Sony Music, and then currently her management of Wyclef Jean. Maddie, thank you for joining our first Barn Burner series.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love that I get to be here for the first one.
Same. Thank you. Originally from Chicago, Kayle Phillips earned his degree in advertising from Iowa State University, where he played Division I football. Determined to start a career in the music industry, he made the transition from Iowa to New York when he landed his first job at Viacom CBS. Working on the music team at MTV, he executed artist relation programs such as TRL, Wild 'N Out, and the MTV Video Music Awards. Kayle now finds himself at Facebook and Instagram with the mission to elevate, amplify, and increase the representation of Black and Latinx creators in entertainment. In addition to his day job, Kayle turned a longtime hobby into a small business almost overnight. Raised in a home where food was a quintessential pillar of family, Kayle's passion for culinary arts began at a very young age. After moving over 1,000 miles from home post-college, he used cooking as an outlet to feel close to his family. And finally, Kayle's Kitchen was born. What started off as humble brunch parties with close friends quickly turned into a large catering gig fueled by the power of word of mouth advertising. Kayle, my dear, thank you so much for joining us. Just so everyone knows, Kayle worked with me at MTV. And I'm so proud of him, and greatness awaits for you. So,
thanks for having me.
Thank you, Kayle. So let's get right into it. We're going to get right into this amazing conversation. So it goes without saying, I think most of us are very familiar with the stats on Black-owned businesses during last year, but it is worth reminding everyone. 41% decline of Black-owned businesses, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research. Black owners fared worse because fewer of them operated in industries deemed essential during the pandemic. Wyclef, you are not only a global superstar, but you are also an astute businessman, owning several companies, including your most recent Soto Music Labs, which we retained for the Google Black-owned Friday campaign. You are from Haiti, and as an immigrant, at what point in your life was entrepreneurship introduced to you?
Well, great question. And I like the "you from Haiti" part. So
Haiti.
with that, I think that when you grow up, my father had left me when I was 1 year old. And so I was raised by my aunties and my grandma. And we always talk about extreme poverty in Haiti. But one of the things that we don't talk about is how these women find ways and to create businesses, literally from nothing, and turn them into something. So when you're in a situation where now you have to rely on the rain, you have to rely on the right stock. We would watch my grandma plant from tomatoes, corn, based on the season. And then we'd see her take that with my aunt and literally go sell that in the city. And what they made in the city, then they would get some cattles, right? Then literally bring the cattles back. And it was amazing. I said that was my first experience with social entrepreneurship. Just the idea, because the reason why I say social entrepreneurship is because when food was around, we wasn't the only ones getting fed. So they made sure that the community was so literally I would say that was my first experience in the idea of not just making money, but the idea of including the community with what you're making. The idea of, if we all are better, if it can't just be like you're good, your business is good, right? Because then it'll affect the next business. Or I'm fed and you're still hungry. So I would say that was instilled in me at a young age. I would say that's probably how it started.
Powerful, powerful. So, for the Google Black Owned Friday campaign, you wrote and produced several jingles, our theme song, and one jingle, it was like an ode to your favorite Black owned business, Juice Vibes in New Jersey. In
Mhm.
your opinion, why is it important to buy and support Black owned businesses?
Well, for me, it's important owning a jingle and score company as a Black person. This is important because, coming up in the hood, they'd be like, yo, get on the billboards, you got to be popping on the radio. We need you on MTV. Then when you go like, but I want to write my own sheet music and play
Mhm.
call to, they said, don't worry about that. So for me, it was important to be a leading example to show the youth there's different avenues and how you can make money in this business. So we say we score with soul. And what does that mean? So my friend has Vibes, right? And Vibes is basically a vegan spot, right? And so I had some rappers that I was working with, right? Battle rappers, right? The battle rappers are hardcore. I had some real cool kids I was working with. They're Crips from New Jersey,
Oh,
and they was working with Uncle Wyclef. And I was like, yo, I said, yo, I'm gonna get some vegan food. Y'all want some fun? No, Unc, we don't do that vegan, dog. Just get us that regular burger. We good, right? And I was like, yo, I'm telling you, y'all
Yeah,
need to try this Vibes, right? And
yeah.
so my man bought the food and they started eating the patty, right? It was like, yo, Unc, you sure this don't got no meat in it, right? And so this, to me, coming up with a jingle for the energy of that, it just reminded me of that day in the studio. The way
Mm.
that I compose jingles is sort of like the ways that I compose song, So, for example, when you hear songs like, right? Maria, Maria, I see him sitting right here on the piano. No, right? So you gotta, hey girl, I can see your body moving, and it's driving, and y'all like, hold up, that's Shakira. So approaching a jingle is the same way, but the thing about a song is the song got to catch you in the first 5 seconds, and
Mm.
that's the same way on how you approach a jingle. And so for me, it was like, how do I get y'all to experience this vibes? Like, go to this vegan spot, and
Yes.
it's a very island spot. So I took an approach like, vibes, good vibes, Give me the good, 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 good vibes. Like, even if you wasn't there, I wanted you to feel like you was going to the islands,
Well,
to
we
experience
did.
this
We
vibe.
did, Clef. It was brilliant. I mean, and just the attention that that jingle and the campaign, made for Vibes is, that's the work we need to all be leaning into. So that was incredible. And thank you for playing on the keys, man, because you just changed the whole vibe right here.
And,
Okay.
um,
It was great. It was great. So, Kayle, in addition to your day job, okay, you're a chef and you started your own very own small business, Kayle's Kitchen. Talk to us about what were some of the mistakes you made when you were launching your business? And, as far as support, what was some of the support you would have appreciated that you had that could have maybe helped avoid some of those mistakes?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I made when I started my business was not giving myself enough credit. I remember one of the first events I catered, it was the largest event I had done to date. And afterwards, I was discussing it with elders in my community. And after I shared with them the rate that I charged for my services, the entire room paused and looked at me in disbelief. You should be charging more. And in my head, I thought of every excuse why I shouldn't. Oh, well, this is one of my first events. I don't want to charge too much. I know this client is on a tight budget and I want to work with them. And
Mm.
even I didn't consider myself a chef because I didn't go to culinary school. I thought of myself as a home cook.
Mm.
Um, so after I stopped and realized, and to just add a little bit of context, I worked for over 10 years in the restaurant business. American, Japanese, barbecue, Mexican, you name it.
Wow.
And once that light bulb went off, I stopped treating Kayle's Kitchen as a side business and started treating it as my main business, my main source of income, because that's the goal, right?
Yes.
Setting up an LLC, creating business cards, creating a business model that yields profits and allows my business to be self-sustaining. Once I created this infrastructure, I noticed that I started attracting clients who are happy to pay what my expertise is worth. And this was invaluable to my business. And it all sounds very easy, right?
Yeah.
Wrong, because you don't know where to start. How do you make an LLC? How do you make a business plan? How do you do all those things? So it would have been nice to have someone, a mentor or someone even in school, because it wasn't taught in college and it wasn't a prerequisite learning in high school or anything. So I basically started from scratch. So it would have been nice to have some mentorship in that area. But the best thing about the 21st century is that we have endless amounts of knowledge at our fingertips. So I just used the resources that I had available to me and I made it happen.
Incredible, incredible. Thank you, Kayle, for sharing that. You know, Madeline, I could go on and on and on about you and what you mean to so many of us. You are a leading example of a businesswoman, an activist, a role model. You know, being the first woman to own an independent record label is hardly a small feat. You also worked in the recording industry with some of today's biggest artists and industry titans. So, you know, if someone's reading your bio, I think they would think, well, gosh, she's living a successful life and career. And some people would be like, well, why even venture out? I mean, you're living the good life. So share with us, like, what motivated you to take that leap of faith, betting on yourself and Head's music?
You know, the motivation came from seeing a lack of certain things, right? There was a most important lack of respect for women working inside the music industry. Like you said, I was a senior vice president at a major label, and that's where I saw it the most. Somebody told me that a woman would never be CEO of a major label. There is one now, but I just want keep in mind there's still only one. There's still only one. Well, when they told me that, I thought, okay, I might not ever be CEO of a major label, but I will be CEO of a label because I'm going to start one. I literally made the decision that day. But you know, it wasn't just about what I saw happening for women inside the industry and the fact that I wanted to change that. I wanted to build a business that is fully staffed by women, a music business fully staffed by women. I also saw lots of things that I would like to do differently for artists on artists' behalf. And when you're working inside of a major, and especially that high up inside of a major, you just can't do the kinds of things I wanted to do, give the level of support I wanted to give, and help artists see things from a certain kind of perspective and help them to protect their copyrights and their master rights. You can't do those things when you work inside of a major. It doesn't work like that.
True.
So those things were my inspiration, wanting to do something different for artists and wanting to do something different for women in the music business. Though feeling so passionately about those things made the leap of faith pretty easy. But that was the only thing that was easy, is to actually taking the leap. The rest of it, not so much. It's you make a tremendous amount of sacrifice when you decide to go into business for yourself. The decisions that you have to make, listen, I will never forget a time I was in the office with my team. And it's so funny because I've been managing Wyclef for a while, and I don't know that he even knows this story, but the folks on my team do by now. But you got to make payroll, right? You have to pay people for the work that they're doing, and you get to a point where there are sacrifices that you're going to have to make along the way. And a business like mine, where so my day job is music management. That's my day job. So the commissions that I make from that day job are what I use to invest into my business. That's my reality. The distribution company that I want to grow, it takes money. The support I want to give to artists, it takes money. So my day job, that's where that money comes from. And then whatever small earnings get made on the business get put right back into the business, and that's the way it has to be.
Right.
But this particular time, I was not yet doing this day job. I wasn't actually managing Wyclef yet. And I needed to make payroll, and I was really trying to figure things out, and there was money coming in, but it wasn't going to be coming in for another few weeks. And I had this like amazing watch collection. And I went to my watch store and I stood and I looked at those watches, and I gave a little speech to each one of them, and I sold them.
Wow.
I sold them. I came back. I paid everybody. I paid everyone in cash that week.
Wow.
Because that's what it was. I didn't have time to like go put the money in the bank and everybody get paid on time. So I paid them in cash. And I'm telling that story. I've never told that story like publicly or out loud, but I feel like it's so important for people to understand what true entrepreneurship is. And a huge part of it is sacrifice. So when you take that leap of faith, you have to understand also that, it's not all, and Kayle has realized that, not all a bed of roses. It's tough. It's really tough. And you have to be willing to make any sacrifice if you want to keep pursuing that vision, that passion, that dream.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you, Maddie, for sharing that. I've never even heard that story. That's powerful, and people really need to hear that, I believe. Maddie, I was reading an article, and in the article, it was in like Personal Finance Insider, a financial magazine, and they were interviewing this father and son. They were both financial advisors in Miami, and one of them said Black communities should be intentional about circulating the Black dollar through supporting other Black business. And, the word intention stuck with me. And recently, at BBH New York, our senior strategist, Amani Walker, once said, oh, there's a Black-owned business for that, or a Black-owned business sells that, to illustrate a point that before you buy, look for your everyday items at Black-owned businesses. You have been very intentional in using your platform to amplify Black-owned businesses. And honestly, I found so many through your highlighting and amplification. Why do you feel it's still considered a novelty or a niche to shop at Black-owned businesses?
Man, there are a few reasons. And it's so funny. I got just like so like deep into trying to like find like a Black-owned business for everything that I could possibly need, right? And I was like just doing research, and I saw something super interesting, and it was about how long a dollar circulates in certain communities, right? So in the Asian community, a dollar circulates 28 times. Jewish community, I think it's something like 19 times. Black community, only 6 days. 6 days. It's broken down in days, right? So big part of that is we don't shop each other's business, right? If that dollar is only circulating 6 days in our community compared to the dollar circulating 28 days in the Asian community, that's a really big deal, and that's something for us to think about, right? And so a lot of the reasoning I hear from people or have heard from people is location, and that's, it's really real, right? So often the Black-owned business is not one that's near you, so then you have to make a conscious decision. You have to really make a decision. I want to shop this Black-owned business, so I'm going to drive these extra few miles to go and do this. There's stories about people who will drive an extra distance to buy gas at a Black-owned gas station. There's so few in all of America, right?
Right.
So there's people who will do that, but there's just not enough of us yet who will make that particular conscious decision that I'm going to drive the extra distance because I want to patron a Black-owned business. Another thing, quite honestly, is I hear a lot of people say, and I do personally also find it to be true, often Black-owned businesses charge more for certain things.
Right.
But the bottom line is the Black-owned business is doing so much less volume that they don't have a choice.
Right.
So you have to be thinking about that when, you
Mm.
know what I mean? And
do.
again, make a decision. I'll spend the extra dollars because I want to support this business, because I understand they can't charge less until
Mm.
more people like me spend the extra dollar.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
That's right.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say is just another big thing to consider, like why we end up going out of business so quickly. You know, even when it comes down to being able to get a loan,
Mm.
just disproportionately, many studies have shown that whether you do or do not get the business loan, that decision is often attached to race. It's not, I'm not making that up, and there are many studies that speak to that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that even when we as Black business owners do get loans, we are paying a higher interest rate.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
again, it comes back to, there's a reason why we can't do location and be in the
Right.
most prime spot and be as close
Right.
as we'd like to be to the people we want to bring to our business. There's a reason why we do have to sometimes charge a little bit higher price for product. And so until people are making that real conscious effort to shop Black-owned business, to bother to go online and look at there's so many catalogs now that tell you where the Black-owned businesses are. You can Google where the Black-owned businesses are in your
Yes.
community. Until we do that, you know, our reasoning for not doing it is going to remain. So we
Hmm.
have to change it.
Yes, and be intentional. That was amazing, Maddie. Thank you. Talk about the the Black millennial. Um, I read an article in Fast Company that said how Black millennials can finally close the racial wealth gap. And as millennials start to become the next largest generation in the US, and the largest group in the workforce, and it's the right time for Black millennials to start securing their legacy by building generational wealth that's needed to close that racial gap. So Kayle, all the pressure's on you, and we're expecting greatness from you, so that's it. You're at the beginning of your career. You worked at MTV, now you're at Facebook, and now you have this incredible fast growing business of Kayle Kitchen. Do you see in your social circle friends wanting or starting their own businesses?
I do. I see a lot of my friends in the entertainment industry and beyond. They work their corporate 9 to 5s as a means to obtain more skills, build strong connections, and otherwise leverage their current positions with the intention of setting up their futures as entrepreneurs. And I think this is for various reasons. Most young people need to supplement their primary income just to make ends meet. And B, once you enter corporate America, you realize how relentless the job market is. Unwavering corporate loyalty is not something that a lot of my peers are really buying into anymore. A lot of people feel undervalued and expendable, and job security at most times is not promised. So one begins to question, why should it be reciprocated with unyielding loyalty? And additionally, I don't think that's a quality that many employers truly value either. They value diversification on your resume. They want to know that you're not a one-trick pony, that you've experienced your craft from multiple lenses. So you spend your young career soaking up all you can and moving around when it makes sense. Eventually you become somewhat of a generalist. And once you know the industry like the back of your hand, leveraging the knowledge, skills, and network that you've gained over the years as a means to start your own business becomes really enticing.
Wow, amazing. I mean, bravo. Seriously, bravo. And I do hope to see more Black millennials starting to figure out, maybe there's a different way of doing this. I remember I was watching on video Sway's Universe, and he was interviewing John Sally and John's daughter, Taylor. And Taylor was talking about her journey. She didn't want to do the traditional route of going to college. So she asked her father, are you willing to invest in my future differently? And of course he said yes, and she started her own business. And she went on to say that when her friends were just graduating college, she was already a successful business owner. And not everyone has seed money like that. Not everyone's parents can give them that seed money to start their own business. But what I think what impressed me more was the mindset of this new group of Black entrepreneurs, young Black entrepreneurs, that they really don't feel they have to do the traditional route, that they feel there's enough resources out there. To Courtney's point, just online, there's like online masters, you know what I mean? Like you could do your online masters if you're resourceful enough by just diving in and learning and reading, and also being, bold and courageous. I think this generation is way more bold and courageous than previous generations, including my generation. I'm not that far behind you, Kayle. So just for the record, but I'm super proud. I'm super proud of what you're doing and what the future looks like for those who are bold and encouraged to carve out their own path. Maddie, I feel like you were going to add something, and I may have missed that, and I don't want to.
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to add just what Courtney was saying is it's so super important. My son is 20 years old. He is in college because I was one of those parents who's like, you're going to go to school where you're going to get out. I don't necessarily think that's how all parents should be, but that was me. So he's in school, but he started his business at 18. He started at 18 years old, and he started with seed money from us. And he still to this day has no credit cards, right? So I made him start with a debit card to understand, like, you can only spend the money that you have. That was like super important. And now he has things that can build your credit that people don't know. Like he has his utility bills, right? And you attach that like to your credit report, and then they can see that you make the timely payments every month. So you have to like learn to look at those things too, things that you can do that can help you build credit without you having to get into credit debt. And I didn't know those things when I was young, so I had to learn those things because that is also part of helping to build generational wealth. Because when you can teach the next generation not to get into these pitfalls, it's like super important. And one of the biggest things about teaching him that way is that money that went into his business, he absolutely refuses to ever let his business bank account go below the money that his business started with.
Wow.
And that is incredible. He won't do it. He will tell me he needs food. I'm like, you have money. He's like, no, I don't, because I just bought blanks for my, for my hoodies. I just bought blanks, so I only have this much. Now, if he had like that much plus $10, he would have bought his own food. So it just wanted to speak to for young people, but also to the parents of young people or the mentors of young people, that we do have to think about all of those things we need to be teaching them about building wealth and about credit. Yeah.
And that's what I love what Clef is, the work that you do on top of everything else that you do. But you are a mentor, Uncle Wyclef, you are a mentor to so many, and helping to show them firsthand, like, a different way, a different path. And it's just, I love that about you. And I love the work that you continue to do. And we need more of those mentors. We need more people that are willing to stand out and stand up and show love. I know I keep using your lyric. Clef, I keep using show up and show love is a part of my vernacular now from the jingle. I just always show up and show love, because that was beautiful. But Wyclef, you have a young teenage daughter at home, and she has two parents that are both entrepreneurs, successful business owners. Do you think she'll follow in your footsteps one day?
Yeah, for sure. I would say the first thing, I'm definitely moved about the conversation of debt, which my daughter, we talk about everything. And of course she knows at 15 going on 16. Maddie says she's a feminist. So so in the conversation of debt, we talk about debt in two ways, right? So we talk about the idea of what y'all was talking about with debt, but then we also talk about world debt, which is the idea of, if you take a place like Haiti, where 80% is living on less than $1 a day, and then the actual debt is through the World Bank, right? As the Asiatic Black man, it's important to understand how long our hands stretch, right? Because we came from the mothers, you know, and the mothers are the power. And what I mean by that is, as we are giving people the information and giving them the awakening on the block, the idea of the credit card and the debit card, we also have to tell them that these African nations and these different nations are under hostage because they are in debt situations that they will never be able to pay back.
Get out of.
So, being that they will never be able to pay that back, what's going to happen is, if we don't talk about this, then we're going to lose a whole nother generation, because they're not going to be as fortunate as the generations in the States. They don't have the credit cards. They don't have the cash apps. They may have it, but have to depend on that money coming from a family from the United States. But the IMF and the World Bank work more with these countries, and we start to galvanize the idea of how we take these African countries, these Caribbean countries, out of debt. To me, that's a new form of reparation. And what I'm telling you is, this is the kind of conversations that me and my daughter have.
Amazing.
Very strong in conversation.
Talk about it.
The Americas, right? Because Haiti is within the Americas geographically. And I always say, coming to America from the islands, right? The first thing is like, yo, it's like coming to America like Prince Hakeem, like, we want to get here. This is our place. We want, and then, you know, and then we get here. And what's the most amazing thing about here is we have the ability to make other places better, but we have to by example. And at the end of the day, we can't just talk about what we're going through here. We have to talk about what they're going through over there. Because I think the globalization is where the future needs to go, because the internet has accomplished that through Bitcoin, through blockchain, even if they want to fight that. So there's parts where we're going to keep coming closer. So just wanted to say that these are the kind of conversations that I do have with my daughter, and she's way smarter than me. So 100%.
This has been incredible. I just want to thank all of you again for your insight, your expertise, your transparency, and your authenticity. These are conversations that should not be the exception, but the norm. And I'm just, yes.
Kayle, what's the name of your place, your store?
Oh, yeah.
Where's Kayle at?
Kayle?
Is he on
Hear
mute?
me? It's Kayle's Kitchen.
What is it?
Kayle's Kitchen.
Kayle's Kitchen?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh.
Uh-oh, we got a
Jingle.
Kitchen. Kayle's Kitchen. Only B-E-K-K-I. Kayle's Kitchen, you can get in Kayle's Kitchen with me, Kayle. Kayle's Kitchen, we cooking up. Kayle, I really
legendary. Thank you.
You just got a jingle. You just. This is what happens when we come together. This is what happens. Like, oh my.
No, that's most epic thing.
You just got a jingle from the amazing multi-hyphenated Wyclef Jean. Come on, this is.
My parents are watching this and they're freaking out right now. So.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Hi. Well, the perfect way to close an inspiring conversation. Thank you. Thanks to the panel. Thanks to everyone who took time out of their day to listen and to learn. I hope it was amazing and inspirational for you, and that you kept support at the forefront of your mind during this conversation. Here are some ways that brands and individuals can help close the gap. Try sponsoring or funding more Black startups, creating more business grants, hiring more diversely, being intentional about raises and promotions. and offering financial planning and support to your employees. So that's just a small list of ways that people can get involved and support and make it actionable. So we are at the end of our very first Barn Burner series. And guess what? We already have the second Barn Burner series scheduled. It'll be on International Women's Day, which is March 8th. So mark your calendars at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we look forward to seeing you again. Tell a friend, and everyone be well and be safe.